Welcome back to another episode of Straight Facts. I don't know quite why I played that intro. That isn't the intro for this show. Clicked on the wrong button, but there we go. Thank you for waiting patiently. Make sure.
Am I even supposed to be here right now?
Yes, you are. Sorry.
It literally said Lee and Terry. It didn't say me.
I clicked on the wrong button.
Is there one for me?
No, I haven't had that made. I didn't bother. I didn't bother. I didn't get the video guy to do it, to be honest. But there we go. I know. Big show today, though. Lots to talk about today. You're part of the conversation. The Arsenal fan police coming for you, first and foremost, which we'll delve into a bit more detail. We're talking Tchouameni to Liverpool. Big reports in the last couple of days from him being close to agreeing personal terms. Liverpool's number one choice. Liverpool are his number one choice. But lots of stories circulating around. It's a deal that's fairly close to being agreed. Huge signing for Liverpool, such a talented player. And we are going to talk Declan Rice today because Declan Rice is connected to a lot of the top six clubs. But he might be about to end his career, ladies and gentlemen. Declan Rice may be about to end his football career. 100% ending his football career in exactly the same way that Harry Kane may have done. So we're going to talk about that and any other questions or any other points. There we go. Someone here says Grimes said it, not Terry. I don't really get. We're saying another journalist has said that Tchouameni to Liverpool is close. Therefore, I'm wrong. I'm not a journalist, by the way. So I'm just telling you. I'm seeing lots of stories circulate. Like I don't ever claim to be the source news. Every now and then, I'll turn around and say I've been told something. I did like two transfers last summer. I said I was told stuff on. One being Varane, it turned out to be true. The other being Koundé, which turned out to be absolutely true until Sevilla upped the price at the end of the matter. But yeah, I'm not trying to take anything from SES Grimes, if that person has said it. That's a very weird comment, but thank you very much for it. Anyway, so we're going to talk about that and any other questions people have got. Get your super chats in, member comments as well. But please make sure the like buttons are being smashed, that you are subscribing to the Football Terrace. It's very important that you do that. And we are live tonight after the games, covering, of course, Chelsea. Man City, probably the primary focus with the title race being back on again after that win yesterday. So Grimes said it's not true about Tchouameni close to Liverpool. Well, then fair enough. If you believe that individual, then you believe that individual. I'm told and read other things, and we're going to discuss it. And that's the point of this. What I would say to you, my guy, FZ City, is what the Terrace does is we look at all the trending news, we present it to you, and then we ask for opinions. So what you're kind of doing there is the point of the show, but you're missing that point. You're meant to say, oh, great, Terry. Yeah, I read that from Joe Blogs and John Smith, but I believe what ES Grimes has said, and I think this is what's going to happen. That's the point of the Football Terry. It's a forum to talk about the news and stories and give opinions. We're not here telling you that everybody else is wrong because of a particular story we've read. I shouldn't have to explain that. By the way, that's every fan channel. So AFTV, United Stand, True, none of them are news outlets. They take news stories and talk about them. I'm sorry to laugh, but it's weird how after like 7-8 years of this industry, fan channels still have to explain that to people. I don't know. Anyway, I digress. Big game tomorrow. I want to talk about the game first before we talk about the Arsenal fan police for a minute, because the Arsenal fan police are weird. But big game tomorrow. How are you feeling about it sort of 24 hours out?
Not great. I mean, you never feel good like right before North London Derby, because regardless of if there's anything on the line or not, it's still such like a big fixture for the two clubs. So I'm so nervous. And this entire week, I've just been like, can you just wake me up on Friday and just show me the score? Because I don't even want to watch the game at all. But I'm feeling nervous, kind of excited, and just all the emotions. But it's such a big game for so many different reasons. And I know people will say like, oh, well, you know, you used to win the league at White Hart Lane. Now you're, just trying to qualify for Champions League at, Tottenham Stadium. That doesn't matter. It's just a big game, big derby. There's so many storylines wrapped up in it as well, like not just the Champions League conversation, which is big for Tottenham as well. I know people are like, well, Arsenal need to get Champions League. Spurs do as well. They want it, Conte wants it, but they're also still pissed about the game being postponed this long and being at the end of the season and not being where it was originally scheduled because we had CV cases. So yeah, there's a lot wrapped in there. So for me, I'm nervous and excited and just waiting for it to be over.
I get that take. I mean, for me, I want a Spurs win, not for any Arsenal banter. I just want the top 4 race to still be alive come final day of the season. Literally, we're planning something quite special on the day. So if you win tonight and City win the next couple of games, it's like the final day of the season will be boring. I've got to cancel the plans. So I'm purely being selfish in that. But I understand the kind of the angst, especially as you have some Arsenal fans who are beyond confident that they're going to go there. I mean, I know that Patrick was triggered the other day and he had to calm down a little bit. But I know you watch the shows, Patty, but like some gooners are sort of like supremely confident that this is the day you'll go 7 points clear. It's all done. It's going to be all dusted after this game. I just feel there needs to be a little bit. Listen, you can be that confident. I'm not going to fan police people, as in you can't say that. I'm simply stating that I would be a little bit more. My point would be, I hope your players aren't as confident as that. As in, they just think they're going to walk in there and steamroll it. They have to go in. It's going to be a hard game. Your record at the Lane Stroke New Stadium is not exactly great. Spurs, when there's no pressure on them, is really kind of good under Antonio Conte. When there's no pressure, and there is no pressure now because they're 4 points behind. It's almost they're not expected to make top 4 now. So
that's not true. They do have pressure because they need to get top 4. Conte doesn't want to be in Europa League. Why is it not just as important for them as it is for us to be in top 4?
It's not that it isn't important, but my point is they go into this game, even if they win, they still need a favor from somebody else. There isn't when I talk about the pressure, Spurs for me struggle when they're expected to deliver, when they're considered a front runner or they're considered a favorite for something. That's the expectation that kills them. When they're an underdog, they seem generally to perform better, unless it's in a final. They tend not to do it there. But yeah, listen, I think it's going to be an intriguing game. I think Arsenal fans are right to have an element of confidence, but it's just an overconfidence from some around. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Like it's almost jelly and ice cream on Derby Day. We're going to have a party and everything else. It's going to be an intriguing one, but I'm excited about the game, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be, a lot of people are talking about it could be some boring nil. There's no way this is going to be a boring 0-0 for me. I think it's going to be end to end, as in you're going to attack, they're going to counter. I think it's going to be exhilarating. I reckon there's going to be 5+ goals across the whole game. I think there'll be a lot of goals in this match. And my prediction is Spurs are going to come out on top with a 3-2 win. That's what I reckon.
Are we doing predictions now or what?
Well, on that, yeah, we're just talking about the North London Derby. On the North London Derby, I'm gonna go with a 3-2 Spurs win.
I think it's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be like a 2-2 draw. I think it'll go on from there. And then all we need is one win and we'll get it against Newcastle in the next game. That's what I predict will happen. I don't think we'll win there, but I also don't think we'll lose. I think Spurs probably feel the pressure. I know that it's like, oh, well, we're the underdogs and it's fine, but like it's not. You can't have Arsenal get Champions League over you at your place. You just can't. So even if there's not a lot of pressure while they're training right now, there will be as soon as they step on the pitch. Their fans are not going to like that. And as the game goes on, if it continues and they look like they're trying to hold on or they're nervous, their fans will start to get louder and louder and louder, and that's where the nerves will come from. So I personally think that in the psychological aspect of the game, Arsenal have an advantage. But in terms of like the game and the players and all that kind of stuff, Arteta's already kind of come out and said that Bukayo Saka and Ben White are potentially like a doubt. So without those players and with already the players that we have out, I do think Spurs should feel like they should feel like they could win. I still feel like it's going to be even. It's going to be a draw. I think both teams are going to be making mistakes, and it's going to be one of those ugly ones. You know what I mean?
The problem is with your opinion, and the real issue with it, Jess, is that it goes against what the positive fans think. It's you're being a negative Nancy, you're being Leanne Gunner, and Arsenal fans are not going to claim you for not saying you're going to win and blow them away. It's absolutely horrendous that an Arsenal supporter, as a not just a level-headed opinion, but as a difference of opinion from the fan police. I mean, are you? And I mean, obviously, I'm being very, very flippant in that. You seem to have had a crazy amount of, I don't want to use the word abuse, because it hasn't been aggressive. It's been more passive aggressive, but I suppose within that, it can still be fairly abusive, where at the start of the season, you were very much immersed and in with the kind of the positive Arsenal fans. You had a good outlook on things. And that group have really become, for me, I said already, it's like toxic positivity. It's almost, they're toxic with anybody that isn't overtly positive about almost everything. And even when something goes wrong, it's, we have to spin this in a way that still sounds positive. And I've just kind of seen that you've sort of been someone who's kind of been, with all intents and purposes, I mean this with respect, you've now been almost put into like a Lee Gunner category of being a negative Arsenal fan, a flip-flop Arsenal fan, not backing Arteta, not backing the approach at the football club. Like, I just sort of wanted to see, like I wanted to just get your opinion on this and talk about fan policing in general. But in terms of yourself, like, why do you think so many Arsenal fans are sort of coming for you in this way?
I just think that everything is just so black and white. You know, everything is, you can never just land somewhere in the middle, and you also can't have real time changes of opinion or emotions like when things are happening. So for me, when things become more clear or I get more information, I change my opinion on things. But when the season starts, you have to either say, okay, I hate Arteta, I hate the team, we're crap, we're finishing mid-table, and that's it. Or we're going to finish top four, we're the best team, everything that we're doing is right, and Arteta is the best manager ever. Pick your side. And from the very beginning, when I saw our transfer window, I was very positive on our transfer window. But for somehow I still get targeted as somebody that was negative from the beginning, and I never was. Like, my whole thing was always Arteta has got to finish in the top 6. How is that negative? Like, how can I be negative if I'm one of the people saying that if he finishes top 6, he should be able to keep his job, which he's done that. But that doesn't mean, like, in that time, I don't say that he did a crap job when we lost to Brighton, when we lost to Crystal Palace, when we lost to Southampton. Like, even though I like Arteta, I'm still going to criticize him in real time. But ultimately, that's not going to change how I feel about what it would take for him to keep his job. And there doesn't seem to be any like ability to talk about things in real time without people's narratives and agendas being at the forefront. And so it's hard to have real conversations around Arsenal with some Arsenal fans, because everything that they say is built around their argument, around their reality of the club at that moment, whether that's positive or negative. It's very difficult to have a conversation. Like, if you say anything that, I mean, this happened like the other day, like around like Raheem Sterling. I said that I thought that it would be a good move for him to go to Spurs. You know, when I saw the stuff about him potentially wanting to go to Conte, like to play for Conte, I was like, that makes sense. Why wouldn't he want to play under a world-class manager? Well, of course he'd want to play for Arsenal. He loves Arteta and he said nice things. And I'm like, but that's not reality, is it? Like, and just because maybe Raheem Sterling would prefer to go to Spurs over Arsenal doesn't mean our project is crap, doesn't mean that Arteta is a crap manager. It just may mean that he wants to go play under a different manager that's been proven. But even those conversations are hard to have because that's negative, you know, because you should think every world-class player wants to come to Arsenal. This is not Disney. Like, it's not real. Like, you know what I mean? So it's difficult. So in some sectors, like, I'm considered super positive, toxic positive, and others I'm Leanne Gunner. And I'm just somebody who reacts in real time and is just like a normal fan. Like,
But
like
this is,
yeah.
and I get this, and look, this is because there are two polarized groups. There's the extreme negatives, who again I would put like a case in point be someone like a Lee Gunner as an example, and then you have the extreme positives who just they do the same thing, but one's positive, one's negative. I don't want Arteta, and nothing he does is right. I love Arteta, and whatever he does, I'm going to spin it into something that's right. And some people will say, well, there was actually a comment that came through. I started because it's a fair point. It says, Terry, but you were doing fan police for years on this show. I mean, I like this show, rival banter, etc., but you are contradicting yourself a lot of the time. Well, contradicting yourself is interesting. I change my opinion as and when things change. There's nothing wrong with challenging someone's opinion. That isn't my issue with fan police. That isn't that people are looking at the fan policing as one-dimensional again. Well, of course, Egal can challenge Jess's opinion. Of course, KJ can challenge Terry's opinion. That isn't the point. What these fan policing groups are trying to do is to get their fan base to all think and feel in the same way and say the same things, like a general consensus on everything. And my issue with that, above and beyond everything else, it creates a bullying issue because some people really get like attacked online for it. But aside from that, and that's why the poll's out there, it makes football conversations boring. If every Arsenal fan says the same thing, if every Liverpool fan says and feels the same thing, it's boring. Literally, you will kill this industry that's been created around fan content. If one of the things about AFTV, which I haven't always loved, is that you can get 6, 7, 8 of them in a room, and they will all have varying opinions on Arsenal. So even within one channel, you get all these different voices saying different things. And I've seen this I've seen some Chelsea groups recently. I'm very fortunate with what I've done on the Terrace to kind of be accepted into a few different kind of fan groups and WhatsApp groups and stuff like this. They kind of know I'm in there as this rogue Man United fan. And I've kind of seen this notion of, listen, guys, we don't want anybody in this group like talking about Thomas Tuchel losing his job. If you do, we're going to remove you. I'm like, but if someone really believes that, why shouldn't they be allowed to converse with you? That my issue is that. So one thing the Terrace has never done is stop people's opinions. Like you've been backstage like with everybody else, and people that call in. Someone challenges me on the show, I don't go behind it. How dare you challenge? It's what it's all about. And I think for me, that's my issue with this. There is the bullying aspect and the kind of ostracizing. And then there is this kind of notion of trying to get everybody to think and feel and say and do the same thing. And you hear this a lot because what you'll sometimes see is someone come on a show and they'll repeat what another content creator has said. But then you challenge them on that point and they've got no substance to their argument because they're parroting something they've heard. Does that make sense? And for me, it's like you don't even believe what you're saying because you haven't researched it. You're just saying it to kind of toe the party line. And I sort of feel like, for me, someone who loves this industry, loves what we do, I love the contact and the interaction with people. If you're a Liverpool fan and you don't think FSG are good, you should be allowed to say it. You know, if you're a Man United fan and you like the Glazers, you should be allowed to say it. You shouldn't be like ostracized and you're not really a fan. You're not really this. You're not really that. Like, that's something, even with me, I'm going to move more away from this whole, like, I think you're a fake fan if you do this. I believe if you give money to Man United Football Club, you're supportive of the Glazers. I believe that's what you're doing. However, I respect your right to be able to do it. I'm not going to call you a Man United fan. It's something over the last week or two I've been reflecting on myself on a lot and just thinking it's just getting really boring now. Like, you're not an Arsenal fan because you didn't say that Sterling to Arsenal should be the move, and you've said that it'd be good at Tottenham.
Well, I'm also not an Arsenal fan because, like, the thing is, like, you can't say anything that's not positive. Like, and I said this the other day. I do think that, and there's people in the comments saying just pick a side. That's just, for me, like, if that's what you want to do, you want to pick a side and you're going to be Arteta in, Arteta out. And so no matter what Arteta does, like, that narrative is going to be at the forefront. Fair enough. But I'm not going to do that because that's just doesn't feel like that's not real to me. But I'm just going to do things in real time and just think about the consequences later. If I think somebody had a crap game, I'm going to say it. If I think Arteta was crap one day, I'm going to say it. Like, it gets to the point even where if you, like, they're starting to conflate criticism of players with abuse, and that's getting stupid to me.
No,
Like, we're
I,
not
I,
even allowed to say a player had a bad game. That's normal. Like, we're supposed to say that. And the players are, yes, they're on Twitter and they see it. But what they're talking about is when you're talking about bad things to their families and stuff like that, they know we're going to say they had a crap game.
Yeah, of course. Well, Jesse Lingard spoke about this, saying that the players do not mind the criticism. It's the abuse. You have these two groups of people. Some, again, the positive ones who are always positive, they see a Xhaka had a bad game as abuse. Then you get the negative ones who are like, they'll call someone 3 or 4 pejoratives within a tweet and say that he's got a special place waiting for him in hell because of how bad he is at football. And they see that as criticism. And it's almost like, again, these groups, the positive and negatives, are the same people with a different ends of that spectrum. And that's not an issue that they think and feel like that to a degree. You know, they're allowed to do that, freedom of speech and all that. But it's this trying to force everybody into their way of thinking. And those groups very rarely talk to each other in terms of, have a discussion, have a debate, go through it, like air it. It's almost like I want to be in my little safe space, in my little echo chamber with everybody thinking and feeling the same way as I do. But you do know why you're getting a lot of crap about this, though, don't you? You do know why you're specifically being targeted by some Arsenal fans, right? You do get why, don't you?
Why?
One thing that Lee Gunner speaks about, which I think is very true, is there are certain, and every fan base has these, there are people that might be very popular on Twitter, but they've tried to become YouTubers or content creators or presenters, and it's never worked for them. There's a guy I know that's got nearly 500,000 followers on Twitter. So every tweet he puts out, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 likes, retweets. Amazing Twitter account. Tried to start a YouTube channel. Average video views are like 100. I do think there's people that are looking at your progression, what you're doing with 110, the work you've been doing with Bleacher, you know, the growth of your channel. Was it like 7,000 subs now in short space of doing this like a year? What you'll also get, there'll be bitterness in people around, she's doing more than I'm doing. She's achieving more than I am. I think my football opinion is better. And these groups will all come together and try and like get you. Like there is that going on as well. And I've seen this happen to so many content creators. There's a guy that I'm working with at the minute, and he was doing it with his friends, and then he started to get all these opportunities that his friends weren't. His friends are no longer his friends, and these have been friends since they were like kids because they're jealous of what he's doing. I do think there's an element of why you're getting some crap as well, by the way.
Well, what I will say is that like I'm okay. Like if there's people, they come at me, they're passive aggressive, and they think I don't see it. They think I'm just gonna sit there and be like, you know, just take whatever they're going to say. If you come at me, I'm going to come back at you. So I'm a feisty person. That's me. I don't always take the high road. So if you come at me online and you start talking about things and saying I'm a negative Arsenal fan and don't be surprised if I come for you. Like, you know what I mean? Because that's just how I am. So as long as people are okay with, you know, if they can give it, they can take it back, then it's fine. But I just have normal feelings like any other fan. Like I'm not about to sit here and paint a picture around Arsenal that I don't think is actually accurate. Like, you know what I mean? It just is what it is. But there you go.
Well, I saw an interaction that you had on. I mean, I don't really get involved in things like this on Twitter, but like I saw you had an interaction where someone kind of called you out. You put a tweet out saying like Arteta out has probably deleted their tweets or something. I think when Unai Emery, I think it was the Champions League semi-final, and then you got a response from someone who kind of said, "But you were saying that Arteta should go. You're a hypocrite." And you kind of said, "Well, I've already addressed this. I'm allowed to change my mind. Grow up." And then there was a barrage of messages up going, "How dare you abuse him for telling him to grow up?" And I just thought to myself, that's where I saw the fan police, the first time I really saw the fan police coming for you, in terms of it was almost like you can tell they've spoken about you privately and they've waited for something they feel is like they can hook onto and kind of go at you at. But telling someone to grow up, it's hardly, you know, you're hardly Will Smith. Do you know what I mean? You're hardly R. Kelly.
You know what? I don't know if people are like young or what, but like if you think that I've just attacked you or abused you by telling you to grow up, I don't know what your life is like. Like I really don't. Like there's just things you say online like that are just not a big deal. Like I've even seen Patrick say things like people going back and forth with him, and he's a Spurs fan, right? So going back and forth with him, and then you know, you're being passive aggressive with Patrick, and then all of a sudden now you think you're being abused. Like, you know, if you're going to give it, just be willing to take it back, and don't expect people to present it to you in a way that you like. You know, that's all I'm going to say, because social media is such a weird place. People act like they're a victim all the time, and it's like, you're not, though. Like, you came at people just because it was passive aggressive doesn't mean we don't see it. We're not stupid.
Yeah. Well, I had it the other about a year ago, and I literally stopped really getting into like debates with people. I've had a few since, but I try to stay away from it, where someone made a comment, I replied, he replied, I quote tweeted it, and then some random that I didn't follow and doesn't follow me. So clearly it's someone who follows someone that retweeted the quote tweet. Tweeted him, I wouldn't say it was overly abusive. It was like a loose threat. If I ever see you at the ground, I'll hurt you. And then I was getting private messages from all these friends saying, look what you've done. You've set him up to get beaten up now, Terry. It's all on you. And I'm like, no, I'm really not going to be drawn out in this. I am not accountable for what some random troll on Twitter says that I don't know, I don't follow, and I didn't instigate. And, you know, if you're going to give it public opinions, if you're going to be harsh, aggressive, or passive aggressive, or slam what people say, you've got to learn to take it back. And I'm not perfect in this. You know, I've definitely at times called people fake fans. I've definitely at times called people out for the way they've done stuff. And I don't know, maybe it's the last 3 to 4 weeks I've really been reviewing this stuff. And I just think to myself, do you know what? Like, I've had a lot of people tell me don't have Lee Gunner on anymore. And the more people tell me not to do it, the more I will dig my heels in and say no, because I know that some people are throw, you know, he's had a bad tweet in the past, or he had a young guy on the channel that said that expressions, his weakness was a banana, and things like this. And there's been things like that, and Lee's addressed his mistakes, and he's apologized for certain things, and he's addressed them. And again, contextually, that young man that was on, if you actually go back and find out why he said what he said, it was nowhere near as bad as the clip made it look. But I'm like, I don't think anyone cares about those things that Lee may or may not have done. They just want Lee off the internet because they don't like his opinions on Arsenal. And that's the bit that I don't like. It's almost, you don't care about any of that. If Lee was doing those things, but his opinions were what you liked, you would ignore them. And we see this all the time in all walks of life. You know, we see it with certain singers. Listen, I don't really know the ins and outs, but Chris Brown, the singer? Is he a singer? The singer?
You know Chris Brown's a singer.
Chris Brown. I thought I got his surname wrong. If Chris Brown wasn't very good looking, a very good dancer, and made very good music, people would be more annoyed about the things he'd done to Rihanna in the past. It's only because his music's amazing. People are like, yeah, but the tunes are good, you know? When someone's really good at something or you enjoy what they do, you'll always ignore any faults that they have or any bad things they've done in the past. It's the nature of the beast, so I'm not surprised to see it. But for me, it's something the reason I don't like the fan policing, it isn't because they're challenging anyone's opinion. It's that they want to make everyone think and feel the same thing. And that's very boring, conformative. And it will ruin what we've created here. There's no doubt about it. But
and just if somebody has a difference of opinion, it should be fine. Go and have your opinion as well, but don't try to manipulate it into somebody's a bad fan or something like that. I think that's what I really push back on, that somehow I'm not a real fan. I'm also somebody who, regardless of what's going on with Arsenal, I still create content. I don't disappear off the internet, you know, whatever. So I am a real fan. I just don't always say positive things about Arsenal. And Lee, like, sometimes I don't like what Lee says. It is what it is, but like, he has every right to say what he wants to say. If I don't like it, I just don't interact with it. It just, people just get over it. Like, it just is what it is.
Exactly. There's a comment here. I love comments like this. Terry has Leon for views. Yes. I need to let you into a little secret. Every single person who makes content is doing content for views. Everybody makes content for people to watch it. That's literally what we do. You know, people that make sandwiches to feed people. You know, people that build houses so people can live in them. People that make, you know, you don't go, oh my God, match of the day. They only show the football highlights so people watch the football highlights. I'm sorry, my guy. You're one of the things where you're absolutely right. I do it for views, but I have Leon, and there's other people I'd like to get on that they haven't got the availability, because people, whether people like him or not, they care about what he say, and that's it. It's as simple as that for me. But yeah, the fan police thing, as I've said before, I've got no issue with differences of opinions. We have probably, I would honestly say, the Football Terrace has one of the widest ranges of differing opinions amongst all the different fan bases that we interact and cover with. And I'm very, very proud of that. I think maybe that's why there's this personal side of it where I'm like, I don't like this conformity side of things. We need difference. We need different views. You've got Johnny in the Man United fan base. He keeps saying he's going to drop Player FC, and every day he tweets about Player FC. But I don't want his Twitter account taken away. I want to challenge him, but I don't want him to. I want him to change his opinion, but only if he wants to change it. I don't want him to go, right, I'm going to say the same things as Terry and the people that think like Terry thinks just because then Man United look better. It's like, that's weird for me. I don't get it. The same as I never understand people that think AFTV have made Arsenal a bad football club. It's just
that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
It's crazy.
It's so strange. I don't get it. AFTV exists and got really big because the club was crap. Like, that's down to the club. That's not down to AFTV. And also, like, because this kind of stems from, or is like, this is right off of the back of like Igal calling me out. I'm perfectly okay with Igal calling me out. I have nothing against Igal as long as he's willing to take it back. That's all, so.
Yeah, and the one thing I'd say about Igal is willing to take it. Like, Igal will look, if you lose to Spurs and then you lose to Newcastle and Spurs get top 4.
Well, don't speak it into existence.
Damn. Yeah, he'll show his face. That's the one thing with Igal. I'll always give him credit for. He'll show his face. He doesn't go into hiding. Do me a big favor though, people, and smash that like button. Obviously, North London derby. What I want to hear from you all on is I want your score predictions. I've given mine. Jess has given her, but we want your score predictions in the live comments now. Let's get the likes up to past 350 while we're live on the air, please. Chelsea Alive here says it's called disagreeing with an opinion. This is super dumb. Oh, the disagreeing with an opinion is fine. Trying to make everybody think and feel the same way, it don't work. And the thing is as well, I'm going to get you guys to join some of these group chats that I've been part of, and you just got to watch it over time. You'll see it and you'll be like, oh my God, this is so weird. Super chat here says Arsenal deserve top 4 this season. However, as a rival, I'm glad Arteta is here to stay. No threat at all. What's been your take in terms of rivals' reactions to Arteta getting a new deal? Do you think rivals are more concerned and worried than they're letting on, or do you believe a lot of rivals where they say? Because I heard Rant say this. I don't like to plagiarize people's opinions. He said on Lee Gunner's show yesterday that essentially he's happy that Arteta's got a new deal because Arsenal now 100% have the worst manager in the top 6, which is a positive for rivals.
I mean, having the worst manager in the top 6 doesn't necessarily mean that your team is going to be the worst in the top 6. It's all about how your manager meshes with your club and what you're doing. So Arteta can get the most out of what we have. And it doesn't have anything to do with how good Pep and Klopp are. It has to do with what Arteta is doing with Arsenal. So I hear that, on CV levels, like, yeah, he's the worst. But what he can do with the group that we have and the backing that he has with Arsenal, that doesn't necessarily mean that we finish 6th every season. I think that's clear from this season as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the banter that you get, though. I mean, if we get top 4, we were lucky. We didn't deserve it. We have the worst manager. We're not going anywhere. Gary Neville said it. That's as good as it's going to get. That's just kind of I think it's a little bit of bitterness, but also I don't think it's true because as long as, like Pochettino, when he was at Spurs, I don't think that he was getting more like what he was getting out of Spurs. That didn't mean he was a better manager than some of the other guys that he was going up against. He was just the best for Spurs. And so he was able to get the most out of Spurs at that time period. So I don't really agree with that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, look, I do agree. On paper, we haven't seen Ten Hag in the Premier League yet. So I'm putting this purely on paper that you have the worst manager. I agree with the point at the start of this season. In fact, you probably had people were giving you the 4th or 5th best, and obviously Spurs changed halfway through. Man United, of course, did what they did. I sort of feel a little bit like Lee Gunn here says, later, guys, I'm going to go back to bathing in the mud. Take care, mate. Take care. Speak soon. Like from my point of view, I sort of feel a little bit like I think Rance is right. I think you do have on paper the worst but it's all about what Man United do behind the scenes. Now, there's sacking of so many senior people at the club right now, but it depends who they bring in and do they actually change the way they operate. You can bring new people in, but still operate the same way. The culture's got to change. I'm not getting overtly excited about United until I see who comes in. Do I see a difference in the transfer market? There's a rumor today that, whilst everybody's chasing these 70, 80, 90 million pound midfielders, we're looking at a free transfer for Kamara. And I'm sort of like, those little peccadillos, those little deals like that will make me a little bit more positive than if we just go out and spend 190 million on 3 players. Because I feel like we've done it in that way in the past and it hasn't kind of worked.
Yeah. Also, though, like having the worst doesn't mean that they're bad, right? Like that's the thing too. It's like when people are saying you have the worst, so that means that they're bad. It's not. Like we've seen managers that are maybe not as good on paper be able to get the most out of their squad. But with Man United, like we'll see what's going on with you guys. I really think we just have to wait and see how things play out and how you guys start playing before anybody knows what's going to happen with Man United.
Of course, and even with Spurs, it's all about what they do this summer for Antonio Conte, because if they don't buy him the players that he wants and he starts the season angry, they're going to have a bad year. Man United, it's up in the air. I'm in this weird position of I'm very hopeful we do the right thing, but of course very pessimistic because we've fouled 4 times already. At the same time, you look at it from an Arsenal point of view. Again, I've seen a lot of comments from people. We've had the last laugh. We're clear of Spurs and Man United, and I'm like, yeah, you are this season. Of Man United anyway, right, as it stands right now. But at the same time, it's like I've got this hunger now back inside me as a fan. I'm like, well, this is a rivalry thing. Of course, I want Man United to be back to win league titles, but I also want us to be better next year because I do think if we buy right, get the best out of the players that remain, and Ten Hag gets us playing to the level that I think he can, I have no sort of fear that we won't overtake you again next year. And that isn't disrespectful to Arsenal. I don't think our squad right now, I've said it all the time, is as bad as people make it out to be. Of course, we need 4 or 5 to leave, 4 or 5 to come in, promote some of the young players. But I think with the right coaching and the right structure, I think we can finish in front of Arsenal next year. I think we can finish in front of Tottenham next year. Chelsea, Liverpool, and City is a very, very, very different conversation. Doesn't mean we 100% will finish in front of you, but it isn't like I'm not looking at Arsenal and thinking, I'm not looking at you and thinking about your club and your team and your manager in the same way I look at Liverpool and City, where I feel like right now that it looks so far out of our reach. Does that make sense? I don't have that same fear around you. That isn't disrespectful. That's because I don't think you're a million miles in front of us. With City and with Liverpool, that's a couple of years away minimum, I think, before we could even start talking about that, in my view. But look, we'll see what happens with it. We'll see what happens. We've got some super chats here. First one says, Arteta is not the worst. He is the least experienced. You can only be the worst amongst a bad bunch. Pep and Klopp, etc., are not bad, is what Joe Hare has got to say here. Max says Man United have conceded at least 4 goals in a game 6 times this season, the same number as Watford and 1 more than Norwich and Burnley. It's awful. So it can only get better. Like, in fairness, I don't think Ten Hag can make us worse. Like, for a team with the quality of player we have, we can't get worse than this. And I did a video this morning on Rio Ferdinand. I disagreed with him massively. He was trying to tell Ten Hag's got to shut up. Ten Hag's got to be quiet. Ban him from press conferences. Not Ten Hag, sorry.
You mean Rangnick?
Rangnick. And I kind of listened to it, and I'm like, oh, Rio, man, like, I love Rio Ferdinand. So it was one of those hard videos where I've got to criticize an opinion of someone I really respect. And like, mate, you're so tone deaf on this. This is what the club needs. Like, these players are so much better than the performances they're telling us. If they want to perform, they can perform. And we've seen it in fits and starts under Ralph. The first 28 minutes, 25 minutes against City, doing really well. Conceded that second goal, and then they didn't try. And it was almost like, see, you've got it in you. You just don't have the appetite for it. And I think Ralph's been right to call them out. But look, we'll see what happens next year. I'm sure we'll talk more about next season as this campaign closes and the transfer window begins. Todd says 1 of 4 matches I want Arsenal to win 2-1. Arsenal is what Todd Miller says. Thank you, my friend. Igal doesn't hide like Z does. Yeah, I haven't seen Z in a while, to be fair. I'll message man up. Z did go missing. There's no doubt about that. I'm going to chase man up. He's on the spaces. He's on spaces, but he ain't been on TFT. He hasn't been
I love the spaces, man. I love that.
Yeah, someone here says Rio shows are really good with Joel and Steve. Yeah, they're brilliant. Listen, as I say, this is my point. Rio Ferdinand is brilliant. On this particular opinion,
Yeah.
I disagree. And again, I did a video and I did a reaction video to it and I disagreed. Didn't abuse him. Didn't call him names. Didn't say he should delete his channel. I just had a difference of opinion. And I did say in the video as well, I said, not like Rio's going to see this, watch it, or care what I think or feel. But I just had to put it out there. You never know. Occasionally he comments on stuff, but there we go. Ragnick makes Arteta look like Pep, is what the alien. Do you feel like what is your take on this though, Jay? Do you feel like Ragnick has really failed and done a bad job and is a terrible manager? Or do you think it's more the players are just not working hard enough to make it work? Like, where do you kind of sit on that conversation?
Both things can be true at the same time. I think early on, Manchester United fans were willing to concede that Rangnick had no fault whatsoever in this, and it was Ollie before him, and wherever you guys finished was based more on that than what Rangnick was doing. But he's made some mistakes. He's not a coach. He's not a manager. He's a director of football, and he should have never been put in charge of Manchester United mid-season. That was a failure. But equally, the players are just unprofessional. Like, they just don't give a crap, so two things can be true at the same time. But I think you more have to look at the players because they're being paid to do a job, and Rangnick just didn't have what it took to wrangle that group together and get them to do stuff. So let's say 60% the players, 40% Rangnick.
I think that's quite fair to be honest with you. And the crazy thing is, if those players put in 100% for him, we may have made top four. I mean, because there's been so many games where we dropped 2 points here, 2 points there. There's all those draws we had where we were the better team, and it was just you needed to keep plugging away. I remember saying it at the time we appointed Ralph. I was very excited. I thought he could make us play better football, but I would have still preferred us to break the bank.
I remember the 4-2-2. I remember that whole era.
But this is the point, though. When the players that game, they worked hard and we looked good, and that's why I get the point that he wasn't able to make them do that. But I still feel like these players, it was almost this element of there's been all these. It's been. Ralph's even said this is not true, but I don't believe it. I do believe that his job, and the players were very aware of it, was to go in and assess who's got to go, who's got to stay, who the bad apples are, who the good ones are, and move them on. And I just think when you're that person, and it's almost, we know you're here to like end our Man United careers potentially, you were never going to get that buy-in because he didn't need to try and do what Ollie tried, where Ollie's going to be here for 3 years and he's got to have you on side because you're going on a journey together. This is a man that in 6 months was not going to be in this dressing room. So I think it's a very different kind of feel to it. It's a bit like having, I don't know, the Ofsted inspectors turn up at school. It's almost like you're here to catch us out. You're here to find health inspector turning up at your cafe. It's just almost like someone that's an alien in that dressing room that's not going to be there forever. And part of their job is to report who's good and who's bad. You look back now with hindsight, and it's almost a case of if he was an interim manager, but you weren't in a bad position as a club, you hadn't been failing for all these years, it may work. As we saw Gus Hiddink do well at Chelsea. But the circumstance now, you look back, and I never want to see this again. You need to bring in that permanent manager almost straight away. But viewers, we want your views and opinions on that as well. Ranking them from number 1 to number 6. Best to worst managers at the start of next season from the top 6 clubs. Of course, including Conte, Erik ten Hag, Pep, Klopp, Tuchel, and Mikel Arteta. I want your ranking from 1 to 6. Someone here says Jess is bored. Are you bored, Jess?
No, I'm laughing at the comments.
I'm
laughing at the comments. Winterpool said Norwich looked good in some games. He said you look good in some games. Norwich.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, and that is a really, really fair point. And these things happen, but we'll see next season. And this is the thing: if under Eric there isn't this big improvement, then you better go see Terry. Then it's not. Then it wasn't Rangnick at all, was it? And it was the players. And there's a club problem and whatever else. And if Ten Hag fails, imagine getting 5 permanent managers and 6 if you include the interims wrong on the bounce. Definitely the club. It can't keep being the managers. Like you get to a stage where you've got to look at everything else. But we go.
I love how everybody's putting Arteta last. I think that the thing is like, I'm not even gonna fight people on that. Like, I just feel he's inexperienced and nobody's really gonna respect him until he earns the respect. And that comes with time and trophies and success. But I'm not gonna sit here and act like I think Arsenal is gonna fall off a cliff next season or anything like that. We know we're like a striker away, a couple of really quality players away. We played some good football this season. We're literally competing for top four with Eddie and Nketiah up top. Like, and NLD in our midfield. Arteta's doing a very good job. His coaching is amazing. It's the management side of things where he needs to maybe improve, but they're going to back him. So I think Arsenal are going to be there and thereabouts with everybody else. So
I agree, which is sometimes why league position shows how good you were out of those 20 teams in that particular season. Arsenal could be better next year, but finish lower in the league. Like that's that. If you get my point, equally the top four race could be even closer because if Man United, Arsenal, and Tottenham and Chelsea all improve and all get between 15 to 20 points more each next year, which when you look back at a lot of results this year against certain teams, you just think about the games you lost 3 on the bounce recently. You should be beating those teams. You know, Man United dropped points in silly games, Spurs in silly games, especially under Nuno as an example. It isn't inconceivable that all those teams could grow by 15 to 20 points. You could get better as a team, but not finish as highly in the league. And all those things are contextual that need to be considered. But there we go. Speaking of getting better, Tchouameni to Liverpool. And we obviously know one City fan in here, the big ES Grimes follower. Real Madrid, of course, heavily linked with them. But lots of reports, again, that Liverpool are going to be in for Tchouameni. How good a signing, in your opinion, do you think he will be for Liverpool in terms of keeping them at the top of the tree as they are now, or up by the top of the tree alongside Man City?
I think this is such a good signing if they can get it over the line. Tchouameni, like this is very much like Rodri, the signing of Rodri for Man City. A lot of people are like, why are you bringing him in? And Rodri didn't have the same type of hype as Tchouameni, but they were like, well, why are they bringing him in? They have Fernandinho. It's bring them in before you desperately need them. And I do think that like Henderson has another season or two in him, but that's who I think they're looking to replace. You know, that's who I think they need to upgrade on, or not necessarily upgrade, because I do think Henderson's a good player, but make sure that there's no gap there, you know, that they don't lose this really top talent while Henderson is finishing out his career at the top level. So it's kind of like, I think this is so smart. And what we've seen over the last 12 months from Liverpool is just really, really good recruitment. All of the players that they're looking at make a lot of sense. And Tchouameni is going to be right up there with Camavinga and Pedri for me as the best young midfielders coming up. Like he's just that good. And what I like about him, and I like about the new midfielders now that can kind of play center defensive midfielder box to box, is they also carry a goal threat. They're a little bit more well-rounded than like the Contes and the Ndidis. Like they weren't as well-rounded as this guy is. And he scored 2 goals, I think, like last weekend. And they were excellent. And he's already starting games for the French national team. That's a big deal. It's not easy to get into that team at such a young age. So yeah, Tchouameni to Liverpool feels like it makes a lot of sense. I don't think he walks straight into their team, but he's somebody that, like Konate, could be sprinkled in amongst, you know, Henderson and Fabinho and Thiago, and then eventually become that main person. I mean, the way that they're building their squad for the future is excellent, but also very scary for the league and world football in general. But I really like the player. I really think teams like Man United and Chelsea should be looking at this player, and they probably are. But it just makes so much sense for him to come in. And I mean, Liverpool fans can let us know in the chat, but like, I think he would replace Henderson long term. And that's a crazy looking midfield at that point.
It really is. And I think I'm not going to repeat a lot of what you said there because you said it perfectly. I think for me, though, it's the future planning. And me and Lee had that big debate yesterday about how Chelsea have got to evolve the running of their club. They haven't got to break it down and start again. It's just adding. If you think of it as a house, they've got to add an extension. Do you know what I mean? Put some new windows in and paint the picket fence, as it were, to make it look more presentable. It's this. They're looking at players that can continue to play in the same way that Jurgen Klopp needs. You're future-proofing so that you don't... One of Man United's biggest mistakes, and it's a Glazonomic mistake, is that we didn't have proper ready-made replacements for Rio Ferdinand, Vidic, Evra, Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, Wayne Rooney, Van Persie. If I look at those players in terms of the last title-winning team, and by the way, that last title-winning team always gets slagged off. They finished the season on 89 points and barely won any of their last 4 games after we became champions because we played rotational teams and everything else. Like, if we'd have had the mindset that the teams have now to get the most points possible, they'd have easily finished on like a mid 90 points, easy. They're a very good team. But we had no ready-made replacements. We let them get too old, and then we tried to recruit, and we were getting it wrong because by then Fergie was gone, David Gill was gone, and we messed up. Liverpool are doing something brilliant where they're looking to continue in this philosophy that's been developed under Michael Edwards and Jurgen Klopp and everything else. Someone like Tchouameni, he's ready to play now, but it might be, as you say, slowly bled in. But it's about the future. And it isn't just that they're looking to keep this philosophy going beyond this current set of players. And even though we just signed a new deal, they will continue it with a new manager when Klopp eventually leaves. They're going to create that continuity, which I think is now needed in the new game. Just spending money isn't going to be enough. It was in the first 10, 12 years under Roman and in the early years under the Sheikh. And even on, but because the money's now equaled itself out, all the clubs have money and there are FFP style restrictions that stop you from spending and investing into your club exactly what you want as billionaire owners. You have to be more consistent, sometimes a little bit less knee-jerk when it comes to buying and selling players or getting rid of managers, but that future-proofing, that having that young player ready. And if you look at Chelsea as an example, they had 2 players that would have been ideal to carry their attacking line forward and their midfield line forward after the likes of the Drogbas and the Frank Lampards and Eden Hazard. Although he would have been a slight overlap. They had 2 players that could have taken that mantle in Mo Salah and KDB at their club. But why were Mo Salah and KDB not nurtured at Chelsea 7-8 years ago? Well, because they had to win in it's always been, you've got to win in the here and now. And the managers didn't have the time to maybe lose out one season because they would be sacked. And those are the little changes that Chelsea have got to make. And what I'm seeing City and Liverpool do is they've just taken that not that Chelsea model. They've just, the way they're running as a club, it's a club plan with a style of football, players that are needed for it, and then you're bringing in the right management team across all departments to achieve all that. It becomes a very strong pyramid approach to funnel out right at the top, excellent, competitive, consistent football. And this is a deal, is a part of that process. And I look at it, and it makes me even more fearful of Liverpool's arrival because it's a great player and it fits everything. Everything just fits in nicely. He's highly likely to be successful. That's why, by the way, most of City's and most of Liverpool signings work because they're all part of a process and structure. They're not done willy-nilly.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because you guys are talking about it, but I was getting killed in the comments the last time we spoke about this when I think it was at the height of like maybe Chelsea fans' emotions. But like I said then, Man City and Liverpool are the standard. Chelsea is not the standard. They are the standard in terms of building a club and a long-term process because Chelsea is very short-term. We know that. And so, yeah, Chelsea need to get to that place. And maybe Todd Bowley can get them there with that as well, like to build that up. But, I mean, Liverpool and Man City are always a couple of seasons ahead. So they never fall out of contention like Chelsea has in some seasons. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But I think Tchouameni is a perfect fit for like the Henderson position long term, and even in the short term, and just Konate, Tchouameni, Luis Diaz, the Carvalho kid as well. Like this is they're not going anywhere. They're not going. Oh, and Klopp, because they re-signed Klopp, so they're not going anywhere.
But then you look at it though, and you look at the types of players they're signing, the style of player, what we know about them. You just look at them and go, yeah, Liverpool player, Liverpool player, Liverpool player. They're not doing what Chelsea have done on a number of occasions. And as great as Chelsea have been run, it's almost like it doesn't really fit what we need. He can't really do the things we need him to do. They would not sign a Lukaku because he can't play the style of football that they want. There's a comment here that says 2013 was a long time ago. It was a long time ago, but that's why this isn't, again, Chelsea fans will take this as a dig at Roman. Roman was a fantastic owner, and over a 20-year period was the most, Chelsea were the most successful, but everything has to evolve. And by the way, I think he was going to look to evolve it himself. This was one of the first times where it came out quite early that he was backing the manager over Lukaku and was going to stick with him irrespective. Because I think he realizes, especially when you've got a world-class manager at your club, you've got to keep him. Just having one bad year doesn't mean you should get rid of them, especially in such a hyper-competitive league like Manchester United. I think, like the Premier League. It's very, very important. So I read the name Man United when I was reading that. They had a weak middle, and they go and find a solution in 2018. We lost the Champions League because of the goalkeeper, and they get Alisson. But that's exactly it. And then you've got to build on that. And there's no sentiment at Liverpool. They start to... Liverpool Football Club are the most important part of Liverpool Football Club. Not... you know what? We can't buy Tchouameni because it'll upset Henderson. You can't think. How many times have you seen our fan bases say that? I remember people saying we can't sign Haaland. Now, no one knew what was going to happen, by the way. Can't sign Haaland because it will get in the way of the development of Martial and Greenwood. Well, listen, look what that's ended up. Do you know what I mean? Our biggest rivals are signing him. But football fans have got to get away from this notion of if you guys got the chance to sign Raheem Sterling, if the comment was, but it'll get in the way of if Martinelli's going to be good enough to be world class, he'll become good enough irrespective of Raheem Sterling being there.
I don't really understand that, but maybe it's also because we have the academy thing as well. I think Manchester United and Arsenal have a lot of that, where we're so afraid to let the academy kids get overtaken by, whatever. We have these young fan favorites. I don't give a damn. I whoever's better plays. I don't care if it's Saka that has to sit on the bench. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter. If they're good enough, they'll play, like you said. And I think Liverpool has done a good job with that. But also Liverpool have a good mix of ruthlessness, but also not just focusing on talent only, and making it's a good mixture of the soft factor stuff too, and talent.
Don't mention soft facts. People don't like things that aren't tech.
I think you look at some of the players that I think some of the stuff that you would think just get rid of Milner, move on from Henderson a long time ago. A lot of people don't rate Henderson. I think he's good, but could they have a more techie baller in that position? Maybe. Liverpool, I think, have the right level of kind of everything, and they tap into the fans and what they like, and everything is just perfect. So yeah. And yes, I'm trying to get some points back because I know you guys are going to come for me at the end of the season when you guys win everything. So I need some points back. I need some love.
I just listen. I agree completely. So I think the signing of Tchouameni in a basic, simple overview is brilliant player. Could be an absolute superstar. Same type of hype as Camavinga, who, by the way, in every single Champions League game that he has, coming from the bench for the knockout stages, has changed the course of the matches. He looks a sensation. Liverpool also have got to, because Liverpool are looking at this domestically and internationally. They have to stop Real Madrid getting him as well, because if Real Madrid this summer Haaland not going Real Madrid is huge. And I never thought for a second I never believed for a second that Haaland and Mbappe would both go to Real Madrid. They're two bigger egos and they both want to be the stars. But what Liverpool have got to stop, no one ever say than themselves. They have got to stop Real Madrid having Camavinga and Tchouameni, because if those two players end up being as good as everybody thinks they're going to be, that's going to give Real Madrid this opportunity to dominate Europe and, again, win more Champions Leagues. And Liverpool, look, it might take them years, but Liverpool want to close that gap. That's in their targets, and that's how elite clubs think. And it's an excellent piece of business, no doubt about it. Viewers, we want your thoughts and feelings on that. Tchouameni to Liverpool. Can you see it happening? How good a player do you think he'll be? And how long until you think he's integrated fully into that first team? Will it be the year 1? Will it be year 2? Is it a longer term plan? Give us your thoughts and give us your feelings. Super chat here says, greetings, Jess, from an...
Hey, Fibro. You
I
never
don't know what
walk
that is.
alone.
Okay, you never walk alone. What is that? A filler, bro? What is that?
I think it's a fraternity. I
Oh,
think.
okay, cool.
Um,
I see the rumors signing.
Signings if you make Champions League, but none are quality veterans that you need. Thoughts? I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I don't think Arsenal need to go out and get the oldest guy that they could possibly find. We got a quality veteran in Willian, and that didn't work out. We need players that are more experienced than what we have now, but still have their best years ahead of them. I think that's the best way to go about it. I know some Arsenal fans are really like devastated about Gabriel Jesus and Tielemans links, but that's where we are. Like, we're not dining at the same table as Liverpool and Man City, who can attract the Tchouamenis and the best in class right now. Yuri Tielemans walks into our midfield. Gabriel Jesus would be instantly our best attacker. Sorry, but that's just the reality. And so I think those would be great signings, best years ahead of them, but definitely in league experience is what we need. So yeah, I'm not. Everybody knows I love Gabriel Jesus, so I'm never going to cry about that signing. So it is what it is, and we need like 5 players as well. Like, we're not going to be able to buy just like 2. I think there's a lot of Arsenal fans that had this misconception that we were going to go out there and do the Van Dijk, Allison like signings. We haven't even done the Mo Salah and Mane signings yet. If you're using that Liverpool kind
Yeah.
of thing, like we're not there. So I'm fine with it. I think those 2 players would improve us. Do they make us title challengers? No, but like we've seen with the 6 players that we bought this summer, in particular the 4 that start, that you can make big strides with your team and your process by just buying better players in general.
Yeah, that is it's an Alpha Philae International Women's Fraternity from an international as an international sorority with 172 active chapters and members worldwide.
Awesome.
That's what it says on the internet. That's what it says on the internet. Yeah. I noticed that one of those Greek things. Look, I agree with it. Look, I think Gabriel Jesus could be a very good signing. Yuri Tielemans, I am 50-50 on in terms of how good a player I think he is. But then a lot of people were like that with Jota when he went to Liverpool. Sometimes you need to take these players away from... Leicester have been a good team, but sometimes they need to go to a club where the standards are higher, the expectations are higher, the pressure is higher. You never quite know how good someone is until they actually arrive, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. But he's also had such... You've applied this to Manchester United. I think it's spot on that you have to look at the environment that a player is in before you call him crap. And there's a lot of Arsenal fans that feel like because Yuri Tielemans has had a bad season, that's what he'd be like at Arsenal. The entire Leicester team has been shocking this season. And I hate to tell you, there's some players they check out when they want to leave. And that's what it looks like with Yuri Tielemans. Do I think he's a world-class player? I don't know. Do I think that he can take us to the next level? Yes. So I think that's kind of where we are with somebody like that. And I think you have a couple of people that are really popular online, put out a couple of statistics that feed into their narrative about a player, and then the entire fan base decides that that's true. Yuri Tielemans is no more of a defensive liability than Granit Xhaka was before Arteta came in. Players they just need coaching. They just need to be coached. Like, it's not a big deal.
I hear you. Comment here says, speaking of academy, I think it's truly amazing that the support United youth will get tonight. 70,000 tickets sold for the highest ever attendance for a youth game. Yeah, I read that. That is very, very good to see, giving those academy boys that support. Good luck to them tonight. This one is for Big Terry, a man who helps others. I see you, Terry. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you for that super chat, my friend. J-Boy says, I think Tchouameni could get introduced in his first season. in the second half of the season, as it might see Klopp begin to utilize his 4-2-3-1 formation that he used in his latter Dortmund years. Good point, mate. Good point being raised there. John, one of our members, says, Jess, if you lose tomorrow, do you still think you'll get top 4?
No. I think we need to either win or draw. I think the pressure will be too much to win those last 2 games. So we have to get something.
Leanne Gunner strikes again. Viewers, hit the like and share button. I want to speak about Declan Rice though. In the sort of final segment of the show, really, because I don't even mean this as banter. He honestly could be about to end his career. If Declan Rice signs this new £200,000 a week 8-year contract at West Ham, what is he now, 22, 23? That takes him up until he's 30 odd. If he signs that without a buyout clause in it and without an official agreement for him to be allowed to leave, no gentleman's agreement, no handshake, no, like, I don't know, secret Mason hug, he's ended. If he signs it, he's effectively ended his career. Harry Kane is case in point. Signed his life away to a team that doesn't win trophies, that's never been able to win trophies, really, with any real regularity in 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
I like Declan Rice. I think he's brilliant. I understand West Ham want to maximize the money for him. So if he's on a longer term deal, they get more money. But I'm reading the only way this 8-year deal works is if there is a written agreement of a bid of a certain amount, they have to let him go. If there isn't, it's stupidity, because West Ham could just dig their heels in forever and an eternity, and you can watch the parade go by. Harry Kane Haaland shouldn't have signed for Man City this week, because Harry Kane should have been there last year, but Harry Kane signed his life away. And look, City fans are probably happy with that. They've got a very good player for maybe a longer period of time because he's younger, etc. But I'm looking at this deal for Declan Rice, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking in 3 years' time, this could be horrendous for him. And I hope and I pray that he doesn't commit career suicide. And I mean this with respect to West Ham, and commit 8 years of his life to him. It would be horrendous for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he can't sign this. He absolutely cannot sign this. I think that, you can look at what happened with Harry Kane, and that's just such a good example of somebody who gave his club faith and like tried to do the right thing, and they screwed him. And I don't think, West Ham would be, it's business at the end of the day. They don't want to lose him. And so they'll just dig their heels in, like you said. He has to sign like a Grealish type extension. That's what he needs. Something 3-4 years, but I'll give you a little bit of time to, get a trend. Because I'm sure what West Ham are telling him is that, we have some new investors, we're going to come in and we're going to go big. We're going to have some form of European football. We're going to do this and that. Just stick with us for a couple more years. He has to get the Grealish extension, but if somebody comes in with 100 million, I'm out. He has to get that. He cannot sign an 8-year, deal. It's just too much. And, the 200 grand a week, I'm sure that sounds really good, but any of the top teams will give him that, if not more. So don't settle there, because West Ham, as good as they've done, I just feel like the big six are going to be doing something different. They're going to all rebuild. Like Spurs will go again, Man United, Arsenal, and I don't think West Ham will have the same ability to compete like they've done this past 2 years. So I wouldn't do it. It just seems so.
No, I agree. There's comments from here saying he's overrated and overpriced. Well, I think you're trying to discredit him. You're actually making the point to not sign this new deal even more important, because the longer his contract is, the more West Ham are going to... Remember, it's West Ham that are overpricing him. People have this weird thing in football where they act like Declan Rice is overhyping himself and Declan Rice is setting his own price. Do you know what I mean? It's like there are certain like content creators you can ring up and go, like, how much to come on a show, and they're like, yeah, it's 20 grand for an hour. It's like that's someone setting their own price, right? Declan Rice doesn't set his price, West Ham do. So from Declan Rice's point of view, don't sign a new deal, run the contract down, and every summer you become cheaper and more affordable, meaning that less people people talk about when he's not worth 150 million. No, you're right. He isn't worth 150 million pounds. There's no doubt about it. But if that's what West Ham are going to charge and the team's willing to pay for it, it's not on Declan Rice.
That's what he's worth to West Ham.
Yeah,
that's what he's worth to them.
Exactly. And they know they're not getting 150, but if they say 100, they might get 80. If they say 150, they might get 100. You know, it's about getting more money out of it. And I think Declan Rice is a very, very, very good central midfielder. So I've heard people say world class. No, he hasn't played Champions League football and he hasn't played for a top team yet. And I think it matters because how teams play against you is different. If he went to Liverpool, if he went to Man City, he's up against low blocks, teams like surrendering space, a lot of the counterattacks against you. Maybe if he's sitting back deeper, there's a lot more one-on-one defensive type elements as opposed to being more compact in a West Ham team. Until you see someone in that environment for a season or two, you don't know how good they are. You can have an opinion on what you think will happen, but you don't 100% know. You need the proof in the pudding. He needs to go to a bigger club to see what he can do in midfield battles, what he can do. I've seen so many times when West Ham play the big teams, and I've seen West Ham at home dominate halves of football against Liverpool, against Chelsea, and he's been integral in that. But I want to see him with a quality midfielder next to him. He's not going to go Liverpool, but say he does, and he has Thiago and Tchouameni with him. I'm intrigued to see how he stands out and how he dominates a midfield battle when they play Man City, when they play Real Madrid and Barcelona in the Champions League. Some will say right now he won't make it. Some will say he will. But he needs the move. He needs to be able to prove that to himself, not spend 5 years longer at West Ham and then at 27 eventually get the move when they come to an agreement. And by then he's kind of not burnt out, but maybe lost a bit of hunger. Maybe just the parade's gone by. He needs that move now where he's still young, fresh, raring. He needs to be taught. Now, I know, it's going to sound rude to Moyes. He's now at that age where he needs to get in front of a world-class manager now as well. He needs a world-class manager and coaching setup around him also, not Moyes and Southgate. Like, he needs better for him to develop.
Yeah.
Overall, terrible business if he stays.
Yeah, and I'm looking like his contract expires in 2024. So he has basically, that's 2 more years left on his current deal. I mean, what is he, 22 or something like that? So essentially, like, no matter what he does, he probably has at least 2 more years left at West Ham. So he'll be 24 when he leaves, because I don't think they'll sell him this summer. You know, so they either sell him next summer or they won't be able to. They'll have to let him go for free if he doesn't sign a new deal. They have a club option for 1 more year. But if I'm him, I would try to run my deal down. That's what I would do. Like, I would just run my deal down like everybody else seems to be doing, because he needs to have some sort of power over his own situation. And I know that it might sound like the good thing, the right thing to do, to sign a new deal with West Ham. But what you've seen with Harry Kane is clubs are out for themselves. If they have really good players, they don't want to sell them, and you don't want to get locked in. I mean, you have a very short career. He'll be at least 24 by the time he can actually leave. So I would just maybe try to run my deal down. I wouldn't sign anything. You know, I really wouldn't.
Completely agree. I completely agree. And I know a lot of people don't like him, and same as people don't like. There's a lot of English players that people don't like for whatever reason, but I think he's very talented. Rice is overrated and overpriced. I disagree with the overrated. Do you know what? I do get what you mean by overrated. Some people really big him up. I think he's very talented. I want to see him given a chance. Ads here says, I don't think Rice will end his career if he stays at West Ham. He's not a bad player, but he isn't a top class one either. So it wouldn't be too much of an L if he stays in East London. I mean, even then, though, even if he went to a Chelsea and was part of the squad, he still pick up trophies there. But it depends what he wants, I suppose. Samuel here says, Terry and Leanne, how do you think Kane felt after the Haaland to City move?
He probably had a nice stiff drink. Like, you know what I mean? Well, I mean, Harry Kane, like, he wanted the move. He was desperate to go, but Conte being at Spurs probably makes it not as bad, only if Levy backs it. But I mean, it has to have hurt him, right? Like, because he could be at City right now, and City would. I don't know if I could say that City would have won everything if he would have been there, but he'd definitely be closer to a trophy or two.
Yeah, they would. And look, I also think, I'll be honest with you, I do think as well that if they had Harry Kane this season, I don't think they would have been caught by Liverpool. I think they would have not. I do think they'd have knocked Real Madrid out of the Champions League. I really do, because there was just so many opportunities in games that they've lost points in the league in the last few months, and of course in the Champions League. He would, in my opinion, have put the ball away. Now, some people disagree again, because they will never allow it to be said that Harry Kane is even a good player, because they don't like hearing that. But I think he would have done something decent, in my opinion. But there we go. Jess, which striker can Arsenal legitimately get, in your view?
I mean, we can't get Haaland and guys of that level. I think we could get Osimhen, but we have too much stuff to do, so we probably won't get him, because we're not going to spend 100 million on one player. I think we'll get Gabriel Jesus. That's what I think is legitimately possible right now. We could have probably gotten Tammy Abraham last summer, but look, he already went to Roma, and now they're going to want an arm and a leg for him. So I think we're in that tier below, shopping below the Haalands and the Mbappes.
What about Anthony Martial? He's available. Would you like Arsenal?
Please. Absolutely not. I know they said that he was the second coming of Henri, but I think we all know that that's not true. No Martial for me. He has a stinky attitude, that one there. So no, thank you.
How dare you? How dare you say such an inflammatory thing?
I don't want him anywhere near my club.
I think that's what you're saying there is egregious. You're like a gammon. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, we have Eddie and Ketia, so I mean, we're sorted. What else do you need? Call Eddie.
Eddie getting a new deal. You don't even need a new midfielder, because suddenly El Neni has shown them levels that he promised 8-9 years ago. You're there. Exactly. You're ready to go. You're ready.
There.
ready to go.
Exactly.
No, I hear you on that. I do. Yeah, listen, Martial. Yeah, he just needs to leave. Listen. I'm gutted it didn't work out.
I mean, the fact that he went to Sevilla and they told him to go back home, and now they want to bring Pepe, shows how stinky Martial was.
I know. What's really mad about it is how, again, this is the thing with the genders. Like, the worse Martial gets, like, I quite like watching it now. People that love Martial and hate Rashford, generally that's the case. Man United have had this polarization of, if someone loved Martial, they definitely would like Rashford. If they love Pogba, they won't like Bruno. It's kind of, you can kind of tell who people like by their profiles and stuff. But it's like every time there's bad news about Martial, if I check, I go, right, there's something's trend about Martial not wanted by United or Sevilla. I go to these people's Twitter accounts and look, within 2 or 3 tweets, they're slagging off Rashford. It's so funny. I'm like, oh my God, they just can't take it that their poster boy isn't as good as they thought. So instead of going, do you know what? I think I was wrong about Martial. It's what I'm going to do today is I'm going to spread prop about this person or that person. And by the way, Rashford fanboys do exactly the same thing. When Rashford's doing bad, it's like, yeah, but look how bad Martial is doing. It's like, yeah, but that's not an argument, mate. Just admit you were wrong. Simple as that. But listen, everyone who has tuned in, a big thank you to each and every single one of you today. We're live tonight after the match reaction shows. I want to say a big thank you to everybody as well that's been checking out the Football Terrace Clips channel. The link for that is in the description below. Just looking for it here. I'm going to post into the live comment section. So if you haven't seen it yet, please go check out the Clips channel. Lots of clips from shows. You may have missed them. Some great content over there that KJ posts for us every single day. So go check out the Clips channel. Go and subscribe. I'd love all of you to go and do that right now for us. We did have another super chat that came through. Who's been worse, Pepe or Martial? Pepe. Martial's had
Pepe.
Yeah, it is Pepe. I would say, in fairness, especially on cost as well. So Definitely. Listen, everyone who's tuned in, a big thank you to each and every single one of you. Jess, pleasure as always. Take care, everybody. Goodbye. God bless.